Thanks everyone for sharing the stories. I want to reiterate what Christy said about like really appreciating through this whole series, both seasons, what I've learned because I've been in community with you all. So now we want to talk about what's next, and not just that, but like what's on the horizon and how can we help? And not just how can we OSU help you all, but how you all as part of the Outdoor School Network can help each other, and how the OSU team can learn from what you're doing. So multiple streets and avenues. And to that end, that kind of speaks to our ongoing learning journey. And so I want to bring us back to the North American Association for Environmental Education, or NAAE's, EEVAL values framework, which just stands for their values-based environmental education evaluation framework. And the value that we want to focus in on again is ongoing journey, and just reminding everyone that this is an ongoing learning journey, not a guided tour. The practice of EEVAL requires an openness to revisit assumptions and change directions. Both individuals and organizations can commit to an ongoing journey of learning, unlearning, and relearning. And I feel like we all have seen that in the stories that were shared this afternoon with us. And so I just want to reiterate that ongoing journey involves revisiting assumptions, changing directions, engaging individuals and organizations, and learning, unlearning, and relearning. And that is just a process of how we are going to continue to improve our practice as we're going through evaluation. So we want to give you a chance to reflect on our ongoing learning. Specifically, we want to give you a couple of minutes, I think about 3 minutes, to think about this prompt. Through this series, what have you learned, or what has shifted for you? This is great. So I'm seeing the importance of identifying who is centered, that data is diverse, being cognizant of how we collect it, what it looks like, who we're asking, having a support network that can provide you with insight. So I just want you to take note of what folks have been learning throughout this series. And then we have a second chance for y'all to share. And this time we're going to have an open conversation. So you're able to unmute yourself or put something into the chat. But we really want to talk on these 2 points. How do you plan to move forward? And what support and or resources do you need or can you offer? So again, just giving you some time to think about that.
I was going to offer a kind of building off of what you put in your comment, that we have a outdoor school community of practice every other Thursday that is not specifically about evaluation, but a continuation of these conversations is like very welcome in that space. So as you're continuing to move through thinking about this, like I would love to keep talking about it with you. And that would be a place where, I mean, we're kind of getting into the time of year where the attendance is hit or miss based on who started programming or not. But where there's other outdoor school providers gathered to talk about what they're doing or what they've tried. And so that's a resource to offer.
I just had this conversation today with an outdoor school provider who's going to administer the student outcomes. And I said, you could frame it one way, right? Hey, we have to do this survey. It's going to take 40 minutes or 30 minutes, whatever. Or you could frame it as okay, you learned a ton of things about this week. right? We're going to have one station where you reflect on them and you have a conversation about things like collaboration and communication. And the other station is a survey, right? And we want you to really think about these things as a way to lock in our learning, right? I think you're speaking towards also just having voice. And I think that's really important too. And so what I think I heard from you is I reflected back, I honor you, I hear that, right? And so, yeah. I have a wonder. So I advocated for this idea of offers being on here, and I know y'all have a bunch of awesome things. And I've heard, and when I've spoken to folks, they're like, yeah, I'm happy to share. But we don't have a venue for, offers and needs, right? And I've been in a lot of facilitated conversations where someone says, hey, I really need a feedback form for my staff. And someone says, I got one of those, right? And so I just want to lob that out there and say, like, how would that work? How, like, who would hold that? Like, I saw 7 or 8 really awesome things today as the 4 of you presented. And like, how do we share those? Right? Like Catherine, you and I worked on like a feedback form, right? And I was like, can we share this? And you're like, of course we can. But I don't know how we do that. And so I'll ask that question and just leave it at that for right now.
We have something like that to share, but it does, to Stephen's point, to go beyond that, it also makes me think about our two main partners, Gray Family Foundation and Friends of Outdoor School, and how we are updating the document that Gray Family Foundation put up years ago about how to start and maintain an outdoor school program, and building it so that it lives online. And part of that has been like updating all the links and resources and other materials that folks need to keep their outdoor school programs running. And this is something that to also feed into that space so that there are multiple avenues that folks can come across it.
I hate to do this to us, but I think we're going to need to move into our resource sharing, actually, which is kind of timely because that was kind of a question that you were on. And just a few little things that we want to remind people of before we end our time together. I'm going to share screen again. So as we come to a close, we want to say thank you so much for everyone's engaged participation. This has been such an amazing collaborative learning space. One of the finest opportunities for me to really learn from my co-facilitators and from all of you. So I just want to say how grateful I am for that, that I am part of this team. We have a few things that we want to share with you. For example, a evaluation project plan and workbook. I think some of you have seen us refer back to this worksheet document over the last 2 seasons. We used it heavily in the first season. We brought it back once or twice in the second season. And we hope that it is a useful worksheet that you can use to dive into many of the different parts of the evaluation for learning cycle, depending on where you are. You want to start at the beginning? We love starting at values and purpose, but then you can also use this tool to jump into that cycle at any point. We also have a resource list that we have compiled. Thank you, Deborah, who is not here, who went back and scoured through all of our sessions and all of our slides to find links to the things that we shared in each one of our workshops. So instead of having to go back and watch the videos, which you can, because that's another fun thing that we have is recordings of all these things, you can also just browse back through this resource list and use that as your bookmarks to find other cool opportunities. And we also wanted to offer the opportunity to have private conversations with any of the members of the planning team. Anyone who needs eval support, we would love to be available to you as consultants. And I really think about Stephen and Deborah a lot when I think about that role, just because of your level of expertise in evaluation. But the rest of us are also really interested in talking to you about whatever your needs and new ideas might be. So where in the first season we had like office hours that were scheduled, we're looking at how we might continue being a resource for you all. I'm not sure exactly what form that will take, but we are just a phone call away. Or there might be office hours, or there might be more of these, who knows?
Hey, folks. So this is my encouraging all of you to participate in the student outcomes evaluation. We run it every 2 years. What I have here is just a slide that shows some of the data from this, and what you see here is essentially what we all know is that I don't even have the question up here, sorry, but essentially we ask kids, right? Like, has this week made any difference in your lives? And on the left is this kids that went to outdoor school, and on the right are kids in a typical week of learning. And the data are pretty darn solid when we compare outdoor school with a classroom. It's like, heck yeah. So what you see right here is like the lowest hanging fruit. Those of you who've seen and participated this in the past, you know, there's much more detailed information that each person gets. I see someone just posted a bunch of information in the chat. I won't go on and on about it, but I will say that participating is one optional and confidential. If you do, well, the rationale for participating is one statewide analyses, and it's, you know, evaluation for accountability, right? So like we've got reporting requirements. That's what I say is like the crassest version of this. The primary goal of this, knowing that that's there, we don't really, you know, it's like kind of like an insurance policy, is really learning, right? And so statewide, that has led to a lot of decisions that the outdoor school program, as well as partners, have made. Christy, I think that your the slides that you had were heavily informed by the fact that teachers were not integrating outdoor school with their regular curriculum, and we had data that showed that, and so I think that led to a strategic goal. And then a lot of programs have all these different ways they've used the reports in the past. So I won't go on and on about it. I encourage you to participate if it works for your community. Thanks.
And as always, these are our contact information, and you can reach out to us anytime because we love working with you all. Thank you so much for being part of Eval for Learning.